Welcome to Tony Talking Trash About Music. Tonight I'm excited to start my Outsider Music series. I have been threatening this for a while. You guys partially know how weird I am by all the stuff I've had with this, but we're going to get into the really bizarre stuff and the stuff that most people consider to be outsider. I have done one thing on the Shags, and we've spoken a little bit about some of the things, but I'm going to feature a couple of these. I'm not going to have as many as I do as the ECM series or anything like that. But there are a few that I want to do. I really wanted to bring my friend in on this. My friend John had been a fan for such a long time, and and he and I really had listened to a ton of what you would call outsider music, and through the years, and I remember happening on this Wild Man Fischer probably album, probably down in Towson, Maryland. We never at the time, again, pre-internet, you don't know. There's nobody that has a list, so you either find a magazine somewhere, you go to the record store and you see it. And we saw this bizarre thing sitting down there, and we thought, like everybody else did, that we've heard the stories about Matt Groening buying the Trout Mask replica record, and some of us having the same experience exactly. He's very good at describing that. And that's kind of how I discovered it. And my friend John and I discovered it early on. We thought it was really interesting that he would choose to make a record like this. And it really making records like this and listening to outsider music really always draws into question, are you making fun of the person? Are you trying to get, something out of the laugh of that? Well, I mean, people probably make fun of me. I mean, when you're thinking that, I'm not making fun. I'm not saying, oh, look at him, ha ha ha, laugh. They strike a chord deep in me. And you're going to find out later that all of these artists here have something remarkable about him. Somebody like that, Wild Man Fischer, the thing of what we're going to talk about this evening, his music could have been orchestrated any ways, and it was demonstrated that way. Frank Zappa actually did it on the first record, and Barnes and Barnes did it on the later records. And some of the record music sounds pretty normal. When he makes these songs up, they do fit chords, and they do fit certain things that happened early on. Unfortunately, in one of the songs in his first record, The Story of Wild Man Fischer, you pretty much get it all. He was raised in Los Angeles. He was considered probably special needs at the time. And his mother outcast him a lot, and his father and his brother really wasn't. Father, I don't know anything mentioned about him, but the brother wasn't, they weren't very supportive. He was kind of treated differently. He didn't have a lot of friends, that you hear about this. There's some really wonderful, if you're interested in Wild Man Fischer, there's a wonderful documentary called Derailroaded, which was made, and it is very, very good about going back there. And there's some bullshit in there. There's some people in there that, I find interesting, like the guitar player, Fred, the guitar player from Beefeater, is in there in Los Angeles, and I had no idea that he knew, Wild Man Fischer and stuff. That would have been before he was back in D.C., playing with my other friends in Strange Boutique, I think he was in. And but it was just strange. Danny, he and Monica, they were really friends of mine, really close, and because we worked on the same block. And they were trying to do their goth thing at the same time we were trying to do some of our stuff. And I had my two route going, my thing going, and then eventually joining the Now and doing that. But outsider music, man, has always played a big role. And when you're looking at these things, a lot of these people certainly are different. Wild Man Fischer had an erratic life. Because of this, he was institutionalized by his own family. And they've certainly had some instances before, but ends up coming out of this thing. And the big thing, he's discovered on the Sunset Strip singing songs for a dime. Gets into all this trouble, eventually goes to mental institutions, electroshock, and all these other things because he sings his songs. And I think that was the purpose of Zappa doing this. Some of the songs are funny. But some of the people that make these songs know that they're funny. I remember spending time with Wesley Willis, and I talked to Wesley about it. Wesley knew they were funny songs. He knew that. He would say something to me. He would hand me this CD, and one time he said to me, this has a lot of nasty songs. I said, I even told Wesley, I said, I like the ones where your engineer puts the delay on the voice, and he was aware of what was going on. But Wild Man Fisher, same way. Wild Man Fisher, paranoid. Wild Man Fisher grew up singing songs for dimes. He would walk up and down Sunset Boulevard, L.A., sing songs for a dime. Sing, you give him a quarter, you get three. But sometimes, but I mean, he's singing these songs, and they were a little weird, you know. And you hear a sample of these on the Wild Man Fisher, the first An Evening with Wild Man Fisher record. But the truth of it is, there wasn't a UCLA student that had recorded prior to Frank Zappa discovering him. Frank discovered him, and as he says on documentation, you can see it on the film. Somebody should have recorded Wild Man Fisher. And you know, it's kind of cut with both, you know, with both ways, because some people think it's exploitation. He had probably an unrealistic expectation of it selling. It didn't sell, obviously. I mean, you've got a record, if you can see the record cover. I'll show it to you here in just a second, but you have a record cover at the beginning. It's pretty graphic. Anyways, produced, he originally came under Zappa's tutelage. And when he came under Zappa's tutelage, the beginning thing came out. And this is the document that really painted him for a long time. There was a long gap after this before he ran into the Rhino Records. But I'm talking about, and I'm just going to do these chronologically. This actually, if you're talking about how I rate this, this would be, and let's just do these out of order since there's only 4 of these. I'm going to go more chronological. This would be my top rated record. This is An Evening with Wild Man Fisher. Look at that cover. A lady purported to be his mother. It had a lot of guts. Now Zappa, you know, I will say this. He did play with Frank Zappa. He played on the tour here, and actually here is some of his performance doing probably the Circle or something. With them at I think the LA Shrine. He played a bunch of big things. Really cool record here. If you can find this, you look at this, and he's got his little list here, the things they talk about, everything. A lot of this stuff was recorded by Dick Kunk, who ran around and recorded this stuff. And then here's his list. See the list there? You kind of want to root for this guy. I mean, now, eventually, at the end of this thing, Zappa, he ended up getting too wild, and a bottle almost hit his kid, and that was it, pretty much. I mean, he got dumb. And look at the back of that with his eyes. And that's what he's doing. The leaves are falling. He's something else, man. So what it says on the back of this, and I think is as important. Well, you can read it there. Wild Man Fisher is a real person who lives in Hollywood, California. He used to be shy. He didn't have any friends. He would write his own songs and sing them to people and tell them he wasn't shy anymore. When he did this, everyone thought he was crazy. His mother and had him committed to a mental institution twice. On this record, The Basic Fisher. Now this is Dick Kunk out on the street. He's singing songs, new kind of songs for sale. And he's running into people. And then at the end of it, it's an interesting end of side 1. You've got Kim Fowley coming into the studio with the GTOs and Rodney Bingenheimer, and they're talking about how great Wild Man is. Then we get to the second side, which is really, I guess, the meat and potatoes of this. Just rolling himself in the studio, a cappella. Let me tell you, man, there's nothing in the world like it. And these are all songs that could be legitimate songs with melodies and everything going on. Which way did the freaks go? I'm working for the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, and I think that's kind of a thing that he thought people would like. The Leaves Are Falling, which is his masterpiece that he recorded on the Laugh-In at Rowan and Martin, 85 times, one of my favorites. Cops and Robbers, Monkeys versus Donkeys, oh my God. We'll have a racer right now. Oh, it's great. Start Life Over Again, The Mope. This whole side is killer. Life Brand New, Who Did It, Johnny? Think of Me When Your Clothes Are Off, 'cause I'll be thinking of you. Taggy Lee, when he tries to play guitar. Oh my God. And the comments on Taggy Lee are just killer. He goes, oh, it reminds me of me. I'm still playing tag. I mean, wow. Rhonda, I Looked Around You, and then The Long Jennifer Jones, which is the lady that killed all the men in the town. Then you get to side three and you get some historical notes. It says, but here's some doctored up songs. Let me tell you something. The Taster fancy version is wonderful. It is one of the two songs that's fixed up by Frank Zappa. I think some of the mothers involved in it could have been mostly Frank, but it's beautiful. It has a nice harpsichord. Come on, let's do the taster when my love was so great. You have to hear it. You have to hear the line about doctors putting things in other people's octars. Now, some people thought he meant, I don't think he's quite there, but, you can hear some of the explanations he says. The Rocket Rock, when he goes through the beginning of the Rocket Rock, and then the Dream Girl, Serrano Beach is such a, oh, I love it. And then Wild Man back on the strip at the end. And then in the end, the intense part, in conclusion, he starts nervously talking about why he's normal, and then we get into the Wild Man Fischer story, and he goes year by year. In the year of 1963. Oh, it's sad. And then we go straight from that to Balding Isn't Everything an Ugly, Beautiful Girl. And he says there's one of the funniest lines in those. He's talking about something, and something must have bugged me. He goes, see, fat girls always lie to me. And he stops, he goes, I like fat girls because they're really sweet girls. He goes, people watch you walk down the street with this other girl. I didn't care what they thought. She cooked me a good meal. I mean, it's just funny to hear. And then he talks about ugly, beautiful girl, about it's not what's outside, it's what's inside a person. So he, quote, is kissing their blood cells. So I'm wondering, do you really understand yourself what you're talking about? It's just, oh my God, it's great. Larry and he tries to play guitar, and then he plays guitar at the end. And then at the end is the victorious Frank Zappa, hyped up, beautiful song. I'm going around your house, baby, just like a circle. Yeah, killer. And then at the end, Larry kind of fizzles out. Larry Under Pressure. Man, this is much misunderstood. I don't know how somebody could listen to this with somebody who's going through this and then think somehow that you're laughing at it. But I will say this. When I heard this, he had a fan for life. So that was his first record, and that was released in 1969, a long, long time. Then we had a big break, and we get to 1977, and we're talking about the rough but wild mania from 1977. Come on, everybody, do the wild man, ta-da-ta-da-ta, do the wild man. Disco and Frisco, too. Good songs. I'm selling peanuts for the Dodgers, but really rough. This was a homemade Rhino thing. Before this came his Rhino. Go to Rhino Records. He made a song for Rhino Records, and really one of the first ones they ever pressed up when they were just starting. It was the very first one they pressed up. So he was literally one of the ones that started them on there. And that's why they felt obligated, and they continued to follow through with two more records after this one. But this record was released in 1977. Version of Handyman, Sir Larry, Josephine. I Like the Pilot. Oh my God. Young at Heart. Yeah. Glad to see he was still there. Glad to see somebody was taking care of him. He looked okay in this picture. He doesn't look too rough. He doesn't look too old. I don't know what his living situation is there, but as you will see in the documentary, that was a clear issue at a later point. But that's what happened in 1977. By 1981, what had happened also in between that, I should say, between those two, there's a series of writings by a gentleman up in the Northwest, near Idaho and stuff, which talks about experience of hiring wild man. I'm not even going to get down the road with it, as some of the allegations are just the way he acted was just beyond belief. I mean, he went up there. I don't know how the concert came off. He said, but one of it turned out to be really good. Because the funny thing of it is everybody, even including this guy, talked about, quote, the pep. And that's a major factor in Wildman, I guess his depression and his mania and the up and down of his blood levels and everything. affected this stuff. And never was it more pronounced and more, I guess, more documented than when he came to the orbit of Barnes and Barnes. And Barnes and Barnes were fellow label mates and had the song Fish Heads and had some different things that happened from around 1980, 1979. This is 1981. And I'm talking about the record which provides the name of the movie, Derailroaded, about Wild Man. Pronounce normal. I am. Don't be a singer. Some really good songs here. This record had a lot of instrumentation, more instrumentation generally than the first record did. Produced by Barnes and Barnes completely. Vocals by Larry. Said everything else Barnes and Barnes, and production assistants Dr. Dementa. The Righteous is a good song. Oh Linda No Lori's a good song. The Booyah Bass. It's a decent song. Decent songs here. Depends on what you like. Depends on what your favorite things are. And you know, I don't know. Let me get this. Let me look at this. Hold on. I want to write this down here. I thought. Give me a moment. But anyway, pronounced normal. A lot of people were relieved to see that they had people in charge of it. But then when you heard the documentary and you saw the stuff that they had to go through, like him only being there 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 times that they go to get him, and he's looking a little more rough here. And they said he really freaked out and started to get into these delusions that people were going to kill him when he heard this record. He was horrified, they said. And I think it was produced fine. It was produced great. The only thing that horrifies me with this, and you can see I had a blue label with this, but the only thing that horrifies me with this is their heavy-handedness with this. They're a lot on this record and a lot on these songs. And so, you know, by the time 1983 came out, and I guess 1968, they talk about the 7-inch project of the UCLA art students, 3 tracks by Larry. That happened in May 1968. So when I talked about that stuff, that was actually an EP that was put out by UCLA students. I don't think you can get that anymore. You may be able to be repressed in some way. But I'm sorry I mentioned that at the end. And there also is the compilation, The Fisher King, which my friend John was kind enough to get to me in 1999, which collected a lot of stuff. Rosemary Clooney stuff, a lot of the singles that he did. I'm a Christmas Tree, different things that were not on different records. Some of it eventful, some of it really not so much, but it did collect all the stuff that had happened before right now. And that brings us to the one that was probably the most difficult. And you can tell by the recordings of it, you can tell. But once again, much like Tonight's the Night, much like songs where people are on the edge, much like Skip Spence, or much like Thing, I like it. It's fascinating. You can tell that this was a difficult get, and during this period of time, you can hear how hard it was. But I'm talking about this record, and this record, my friend, would be my second favorite. This is behind An Evening with Wild Man Fischer. While I'm at it, I'll put Wild Mania 3 and Pronounced Normal, their first one, at second. On this one, they backed off. On this one, they backed off, and they used a lot of field recordings and a lot of the stuff that they had. I mean, when they have this, they have a song on here called "When You Record Singers, Don't Record Them Next to Microphones. Let them roam all over the." I mean, you know, it's impossible. You can tell he's moving while he's trying to do this. They said he would start to do vocals, and then they turn around, turn their back, and he's gone. He's literally out the door, and then he's gone for the day after they arranged all this time, the studio and everything ready to go. Finally get him there after 1 out of 5 times, and what happens? He starts up again, he gets paranoid and leaves. That's what's going on with this. But there's so many great ideas and so many great songs in here that are just minimally adorned by Barnes and Barnes, which makes all the difference in the world. This record, I think this record is superb. I always have. Um, I think it's killer. Said it's recorded from July 1980 through December 1983. So actually, it started before this one. Larry's words were recorded in Lumina Studios on location or all over the phone and with your consent. Well, look at this. Jerry Beckley and Dewey Bunnell from America were also thanked on this thing, too. Richard Foos, of course. Mark Mothersbaugh, who's his friend. Mark was his friend, so Mark would come here and say stuff. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of this record. This is nothing scary. This is the last one. This is, unfortunately, guys, as we were told, and you can look this up. It's verified. Each of these records sold a small percentage of the one before, which is very strange to me that there'd be that big of a drop off. But evidently, through 1977, Wild Mania, and 1983, which is only 6 years, there were 3 records. The drop off on each one was more than 50%, which is insane. To think that Wild Mania sold that many more, but the truth of it is, you go out to your used stores and you'll more likely see Wild Mania than you'll find these last 2. But nevertheless, to wrap this up, as Larry got older and it's really sad, he ended up in really low rent places, didn't have any family to really support him. You could tell, they were barely supporting him. But he was living as a vagabond, on flea-ridden motels in the middle of dangerous places. It's no wonder he was paranoid. So in the movie Wild Man comes on here, the railroad, he's paranoid as hell, thinking that everybody's going to get him. In fact, during the filming of the movie, he runs away for a substantial period of time, comes back and having not bathed, hardly eaten, delirious, and wasn't too long after that he felt that he had to leave. He ran away when Josephine came back. He stayed there at her house for a long time. He was watching the cat. The lady that the song Josephine that he did, it was his real aunt. And unfortunately, died of heart failure 2011. But the last 7 years after that, really, or the years after that, really became, after the Rhino thing and such, became very peaceful. And after that documentary, it was a shame. But anyway, they said he played in 2006. But it is what they talk about. This is an example of what they try to say. Really erratic. He was on in March 2005. Was in 2003. He had a 6-month-long paranoid episode. Started living on the streets again. Bill Mummy called it up to 20 times each day, hanging up until Mummy had to change his phone number. He would do things like that. That's where passive aggressive blends into the poor guy. But anyway, he played in 2006, which surprises me. I didn't realize that he played after the documentary here in 2005. I didn't know that, but it wasn't too long after that was it. He lost the pep, is what the movie said. He doesn't play anymore, so he moved into an assisted living institution in Van Nuys, which he should have been under care the whole time. And his new medications helped him, but again, the sedation killed his creative drive. And there went Wild Man Fischer. But anyway, guys, I don't know how many of you people appreciate him. I love his music. I thought he was entertaining. I thought he was funny, and he intended to be funny. I wasn't laughing at him. I'm laughing with him. And I'm very sympathetic to these people, and I think that a lot of times the sincerity and the intenseness shines through these people more than it does after it gets bullshot and watered down by some producer or board or somebody recording them or somebody else's ideas or somebody's thing of what can make it normal. I appreciate outsider artists for what they do, and I think Wild Man Fischer had to be one of the most brave individuals to go for it. Obviously, with illness, but a lot of it was born out of his life situation too. You have to know that the effect of living in poverty, the effect of living certainly had a bad deal on his mind, and you could see that in that documentary, and that's what makes it so sad that in the end, somebody, and we talked about it with the Conlon and Caro in a different realm, but somebody like this is never going to make enough money to survive. But God bless him. He certainly gained a lot of knowledge from him. I thought he was entertaining, and I was always a fan. I was pretty much on his side. So anyway, this is a tribute to who I consider to be one of the beginners of outsider music. And thanks to Frank Zappa for recognizing that, and thanks to Barnes and Barnes and the other people at Rhino for putting out the things they have to try to document him. He was an individual with a lot of love in his heart, and you can watch the documentary and you can check that out. Anyway, this is Outsider Series number 1. Leave your thoughts on Wild Man Fischer. Wild Man Fischer. Merry go, merry go, merry go round. Leave your thoughts below, please. Please smash the like button for me. Help me out, please. Thank y'all, and we will catch you guys next time.